Hey, it's Faye. I don't really know how to begin this video, but I think it's the right time to open up and talk about my eating problem that you guys actually called me out on for like 2 years now, but I was too chicken to address it. Also, the reason why I say eating problem is because I haven't been diagnosed with an eating disorder. The issue is more so my bad relationship with food that shows in traits such as the desire for perfection, rare self-satisfaction, very critical of one being, and compulsive obsessive behaviors. It's not something to minimize because eating problems are just as harmful and damaging, leading to ED. I'm confident that last week's video was what really triggered and pushed me in a positive way to want to talk about my bad habits with food, and this is probably the most I'm ever gonna feel ready, so I might as well embody that and use it as encouragement to talk about it, or else I'll probably just retract and pusky out. I want to make sure that you guys know what we're getting into, so if you're hypersensitive or uncomfortable with this kind of topic that relates to food and dieting and body image, then I do recommend you guys to just remove yourself from this video or watch at your own discretion. I know I get comments and I see them all the time where I may mindlessly say something or do something relating to diets, and it really triggers you guys through your own experiences and struggles, which I understand. I can easily say the product reviews or the K-pop diets that I attempt are solely for entertainment purposes. Obviously, I know better that it's not going to be sustainable, nor is it healthy for you. Do not recommend those things. A lot of those things are for entertainment purposes only. About 2 years ago, I uploaded a video called What I Eat in a Day, 500 calories, something like that. The meals and routine that I shared were truly what my daily intake was. This was probably when I was my lightest, around 133 to 135 pounds likely, and I was so unaware and just did not realize or know that I was under eating. And it sounds like naive and dumb that I wouldn't realize that, but just hear me out. I heavily blame myself still, and even now I struggle with this, where I'm just so obsessed with the idea of being skinny. Especially during that time, I was obsessed with how my neck bones were popping and how there weren't no fat bulging around my biceps, or how my calves were shrinking and toning up. Easily, that's one of the top 3 most biggest insecurities I have. A meal idea was like chicken breast stir fried with broccoli, and for a snack, Halo mandarin, and that literally equated to about 300 calories. I'll have a variety of salads, and a popular one that I've shown multiple times would be shredded cucumber salad with some type of ground chicken or turkey, and then follow up with fruit again for a snack. In my defense, like that's pretty healthy, like the food choices here. Just for background, I never ate breakfast, never grew up eating breakfast. That's not a thing in at least my culture or my household. I had thought that being on 500 calories was a calorie deficit, and this is my fault completely for not doing adequate research. I remember being really offended because my ex at the time corrected me and was like, that's not what a calorie deficit is. I had thought eating only 500 calories was a deficit, but really it's like reduced from your total daily intake of calories. Whatever. I just thought I needed to go on a low-calorie diet, which meant quicker results to achieve skinny, and this became a toxic cycle. When I was filming this video, I remember being so genuinely excited. Not for 1 second did it even cross my mind that this was dangerous. I just wanted to help people lose weight. Indeed, I was thrilled. I thought this would present more help and advice than damage. Damage didn't even cross my mind. When I posted that video, I did not expect the amount of negative reaction. I was naive, and honestly, the initial 10 to 20 minutes where the comments were flooding in, I was genuinely confused and almost offended. I was actually at my family's home for dinner that night, which I wasn't planning on eating. I remember being more and more upset, frustration rising, and just venting to my family how ignorant people were being. My siblings and nieces and nephews were like, "What video?" And I told them about it, and they were shocked. Emotionally, I felt so defensive, and I couldn't understand why you guys were being so irrational and just being sensitive. My family was obviously concerned. My brother specifically called me out and was like, 500 calories? Dude, are you stupid? And that's when I started to panic. I freaked out. I was like, holy sh*, did I f*** up? And so I called my manager at the time immediately to reassess. At this time, the video only had about 5,000 views. They were so disappointed in me, like, how can you promote this? You're disgusting for even showing this to your younger followers. Do you realize you have an ED and you're telling us to follow that to lose weight? At the same time, I was angry why people were spinning this. There was one comment within this chaos that really pinched me. The commenter said, "Eating 500 calories is what a toddler eats." And I think that was the perspective that you guys wanted me to acknowledge. I deleted everything. The only piece remaining would be my apology to you guys on my community tab. And I was truly deeply sorry. And I feel more sorry now because I know that I hurt those who truly looked up to me and followed my weight loss journey and looked at it as an inspiration. All the while, half of me, I was annoyed and upset. It was because I couldn't fully come to this realization nor accept why you guys would think I have an ED and thought you guys kind of blew it out of proportion. You have to understand that when people are dealing with these kind of issues, like, they don't know it, you know? I think it's still like very tough to talk about because it's hard to face your deeper issues and own up to your mistakes sometimes. I mean, the meals I've been eating, they're very healthy foods. They're not unhealthy, but I think I was too stubborn to realize that it wasn't about what I was eating, it was about how little I was eating. That took a little bit more time for me to process because I had to put the pride and ego aside, and then never again did I ever want to talk about it or address it because I was way too ashamed and embarrassed. I've seen a couple comments here and there afterwards, like a couple months later, asking why am I not going to talk about it or address it, and am I just gonna pretend like that never happened, like delete those comments, because I just didn't want anyone to see or talk about it ever again. My relationship with food always struggled, like most of us, due to displeasure of self-imagery. It's fair to say that I became obsessed with seeing numbers drop on a scale, and it felt like a reward. I started to restrict myself more, and just to put a time frame on it, what I'm talking about now is before everything, before the what I eat in a day. A normal week for me would be starving myself for 2 to 3 days straight with little fruits in between or a bite of food. Even when I was at my heaviest, like Big Faye, which I was way more loud and exciting and happy back then, but I was so hateful towards myself. And this is why I say, like, I have a hard time looking at the old me, and I have a hard time identifying with her. And I see the old me as a different person, and I don't know if that's just me. I mean, I think so. Like, most of us, probably we do see the version we hated of ourselves the most as a outside person from us. Like, I don't feel connected to her, which is so sad because she really was the one who like paved the way for myself now, which sounds really dramatic. After a couple days of starving myself, I'd reward myself with something healthy, like an actual meal. And then afterwards, I'd be so upset at myself for finishing the plate, overeating. I would be in this full trance of begging for forgiveness. This anxiety, panic always overcame me after I would eat. There were countless times where my sister would be like, "Dude, are you gonna eat?" And I be like, oh, I already ate. When I'm really hangry and upset, defensive, I'd immediately be like, I ate. I'd be angry when she would cook. It was like a punishment to me. And so I'd be upset when she was cooking. I was afraid of the temptation that I'd go and take a bite or two or retract my progress. Now I have to punish myself even more. And I know this is absurd, but again, like when you're in this, you don't realize anything. I wouldn't say I was able to sustain self-starvation because I wasn't able to focus. I was so tired. All at the same time, I couldn't fall asleep at night due to hunger. Like, I was just so hungry. I would chug water to replace my hunger or meals, and that made me want to vomit every time. At this time as well, I was constantly working out. Only gave myself maybe a Friday or Saturday off when I was being lazy. Confidently, I would binge and starve. There was this raging self-hatred where I would trade my whole existence to look like someone else or have someone else's body. And so I was able to use that as a driving force to starve myself, and I'd punish my body, all to achieve the superficial somebody and to gain happiness through that. And I'm not gonna lie, I was happy. Now looking back, that happiness was toxic and temporary, but it was enough to keep me doing what I was doing. Eventually, the starving didn't work anymore, and I became such a scary person because my body was cooperating less and less to my demands, and I would just eat. It was this weird feeling, mixed emotions, where I was so satisfied for shoving and stuffing my face with food, but all at the same time raging because I should be renounced of food. One thing I can agree on, anytime I was in a starving or binging phase, my mind felt disconnected from my body. It felt like an outer body experience where I had no control whether or not my body was feeding me overload or I was restricting and aching. I never felt present. I guess that makes me realize how much food has control and power over us. Not to sound dramatic, but the relationship curated between objectively my body and food, it felt abusive to my well-being. Unknowingly, that was the feeling that was manipulating, rewarding, and punishing, I guess, myself. It's so normal when you're living it that you're oblivious to these issues, and it's kind of like any abusive relationship where you can't see it, but everyone else can see it. Soon after, I couldn't keep up anymore, and I was miserably defeated. So I introduced myself to small meals a day. That really felt like I recovered from this destructive eating period. By eating, I guess the new concern was not eating enough, but the missing part of the story, that phase where I was sharing what I eat in a day, was recovery for me. And no one knew that. I was recovering from starving myself by filling my days with food, even if that meant too little of food. That most definitely was the mistranslation in my What I Eat in a Day video. I was so proud of myself for finding a sustainable, at the time, way of food intake daily. I was so out of it in my own world that the simplest, most obvious reason as to why this was problematic, I missed. I guess it brings me to right now, like as of current. It's not like it's a extreme problem where I need to seek help, but it's enough to consume my every single day. It's like, okay, well, if you want a better body or whatever it is, go for it, do it, strive it. Sure, I can go to the gym, work out, and like lose the weight, but how long is that gonna last until I fall out of the cycle again? Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just eat normal and have a normal routine that I can keep up with, where it's not even a routine, it's just a normal thing? I know it starts with your mindset. If you want it, go out there and do it, put the effort, be consistent. Like, I know all that. Like, I know all the wisdom, all the motivation. Like, I know all that. But like, why isn't that enough? And then now I'm worried that you guys aren't gonna believe me when I say body positive and everything that I've been sharing with you guys to just love yourself and everything. Like, I don't want you guys to think that I don't mean that, because I do. I don't want you guys to like lose trust in me because of that either. I don't want to leave off on a bad note. Just because there are low lows doesn't mean that we're not going to experience high highs. This is just all part of the journey, and it'll make sense to us one day. I just want you to know that if you are experiencing eating problems or if you have an ED, please seek some kind of help and support. Even if that's your friends and family, someone you trust to just talk about these things. Feel free to DM me. I want to be in support for you as well. I would know how easy these problems override our daily lives. If you take one thing away from this video, you have to talk about it. You have to talk about it. That's always the first step that needs the most support. I'm gonna head out, but yeah, feel free to reach out anytime. Okay, I love you. Don't be